All right, we're back for another week. Week 3 is starting Thursday, so why don't we go ahead and jump into some rankings here. Last week, a little bit iffy on the rankings, but hey, it's just a going process here. You got to work with us. We'll work with you. A couple guys that I left off that actually did really well, one of those being Davante Adams, so just didn't like the matchup. Sometimes I'm wrong on those, and that's going to be here and there type of thing for me. But other than that, let's jump into some wide receiver rankings. And kicking off our list, we got number 1, Justin Jefferson versus the Chargers. Justin Jefferson has been almost a lock pretty much in every single game. He's had some games where it's been a little iffy at the beginning, but then he finally gets his points up. But at the end of the day, Justin Jefferson is going to do Justin Jefferson things. So for that reason, against the Chargers, I have him number 1. Tyreek Hill is kind of the similar way. A little bit rough last night on Sunday Night Football. However, he's going to be the main guy that gets targeted. And now that Jalen Waddle went into concussion protocol, that's going to be really good for Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill will be number 2. CeeDee Lamb, number 3. He's been just booming in Dallas, just as usual. He's the number 1 guy clearly there, and he's going to continue to be moving forward. Stephon Diggs, number 4. Even after the Sauce Gardner matchup, he did really well. Kind of took a little bit of a step back in week 2. However, against the Commanders in week 4, I really like that matchup. Number 5 is Devontae Smith at Buccaneers. It seems like at this point, A.J. Brown is more of an afterthought for Jalen Hurts. It seems like Devontae Smith is the guy that he is targeting, and clearly so after another 100-yard day for that. So he will be number 5. Number 6 will be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, he is questionable versus the Falcons. However, that being said, if he is playing in this game, he's got to be a must-start. He's been consistent so far this year, same thing as last year. And if he can continue to do that, I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't be in the top 10 moving forward. Number 7 is Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow retweaked his calf, so that's going to be a little iffy with Jamar Chase. However, he's the number 1 guy no matter who's on the field. It does seem like Burrow might just tweaked it enough to where he's still going to play, not severe enough, so that's kind of a good thing moving forward. Number 8 is going to be DK Metcalf. He kind of started off hot against the Lions and then got used more at the end. So it seems like even when they are either starting the game or coming from behind, DK Metcalf is a good starting point for the Seahawks, so he's going to continue to get those targets early and late in games, which is what you want from a wide receiver. He's number 8. Number 9 is Calvin Ridley versus the Texans. A little rough week 2 for him. However, going into this matchup against the Texans, I really like it, especially at home. That's why I have Calvin Ridley at number 9. Number 10 is going to be Chris Olave at the Packers. Another good matchup. It is a little bit hard to play at Lambeau Field. However, the way that the Saints have been playing, and they have not played yet, that's going to be starting here as this was recorded on Monday. It's going to be starting in about 25 minutes, actually. But Chris Olave against the Packers, I really like it. Explosiveness, the speed. He's just a great route runner, and I expect Derek Carr to keep utilizing Chris Olave moving forward. Number 11, like I said, A.J. Brown's kind of been an afterthought. However, it's kind of hard to not see that he is getting targets. He's just not. It's just either overthrown, just in bad coverage, whatever the case is, he's just not getting the production that we want from A.J. Brown. However, in a matchup against the Buccaneers, I do like that, especially because I have a feeling Devontae Smith will be a little bit more covered. Not saying that he's not going to be a top 10 receiver this week, but A.J. Brown's going to get more opportunities, I think, in this matchup. Davante Adams versus the Steelers on Monday Night Football. That's going to be a good matchup going in to week 3, and I love the matchup here. Steelers are a little banged up at the moment, and that's going to be great moving forward for the Raiders. Now, Davante Adams did just clear concussion protocol, which is going to be good going forward. Keenan Allen's going to be number 13 for me at the Vikings. Another good matchup. The Vikings lost to the Eagles. They're 0-2 to start the season. They lost to the Buccaneers and the Eagles. Their secondary is not as good as people think it might be from last year. So moving forward with Keenan Allen, he'll be a start more than likely in my start-sit videos. But as of right now, he's number 13 on this ranking. Deebo Samuel had a bounce-back game after week 1, kind of a no-show, and it seemed like Brock Purdy was not going to target him. Well, it seems like we might have another situation kind of like we have with Seattle where Tyler Lockett booms and then doesn't boom, and then you might be seeing the same thing here. 1 week Deebo booms, 1 week Brandon Ayuk booms, and it's just going to be an interesting way. And speaking of Brandon Ayuk, Deebo's 14, Brandon Ayuk's going to be number 15. It's kind of hard to not put these guys back to back. They're both going to get production. They're both going to get targets. And I like that matchup moving forward, especially against the Giants, who did have a comeback against the Cardinals, but it's the Cardinals. The 49ers are a whole nother type of team. Mike Evans versus the Eagles on Monday Night Football as well will be number 16 for me. That's going to be a good matchup for him. The Eagles secondary is definitely banged up, and Baker Mayfield has been targeting Mike Evans more than anything, and that's why I like Mike Evans, number 16. Speaking of targets, number 17 is going to be Puka Nacua at the Bengals. Bengals have not been playing their best. They have not, and depending on what happens with some of the injuries they have, I really like Puka in this situation. He is setting records early and often, especially because, like I said last week, Matthew Stafford, when he has a guy, he targets that guy. Kind of like how he did when he had Calvin Johnson. Not saying Puka's like Calvin Johnson before anyone goes for me in the comments there. Puka has been the main target for him, and still a couple more weeks before you get Cooper Kupp back. And with Cooper Kupp back, I still think Puka is going to be a good value going forward in this season. Number 18 is going to be Tyler Lockett. Like I said, kind of a boom-bust type of thing with him for the most part. He had a concussion scare week 1, didn't really play much after that. And then week 2, he came out and he just caught a touchdown, did what he does usually every other game, it feels like. But in this situation against the Panthers, I really like the matchup, but I just think DK Metcalf's a better target on here, which is why DK's in the top of Tyler Lockett in this scenario. Number 19 is going to be Mike Williams at the Vikings. I like the matchup there as well, just like I said with Keenan Allen. However, Mike Williams being the secondary guy, I just had to have him a little bit lower than Keenan Allen. But again, he's somebody that I really like in this matchup. Number 20 is going to be Scary Terry McLaurin versus the Bills, and he did his thing against a tough secondary in Denver in the Mile High City. So that being said, in Buffalo, where they gave up a touchdown to Jimmy G and Devontae Adams. I mean, Jimmy G was coming off a concussion. Jimmy G's not a bad quarterback. Sam Howell's been a sneaky good quarterback so far this year, and let's see if that can continue at home against the Bills. Number 21 is going to be Zay Flowers. It sounds like Odell Beckham is going to be missing a few games. So Zay Flowers is going to be getting a lot more targets here with the Ravens. And I like matchup week 3 with the Ravens as they are facing the Colts at home against the Colts. Even better when you talk about the Ravens. They play a lot better at home usually than they do on the road. Number 22 is going to be Chris Godwin versus the Eagles. Again, a banged-up secondary. Another guy I like to take advantage, and Baker's been baking so far at quarterback. Now he hasn't played terribly great or terribly bad defenses. He's been playing middle of the pack, and the Eagles are a little bit better than those other defenses. However, those injuries might be able to help Godwin and Evans be very fantasy viable in week 3. Number 23 is going to be Drake London, a little bounce back game in week 2. After the running game took over week 1, it seemed like they kind of found a blend, and at the Lions, they're going to have that blend because the Lions are the real deal. It seems like this year. An overtime loss to the Seahawks and a win in Kansas City at Arrowhead. That's going to be a great matchup for Drake London at the Lions. Number 24 is going to be Nico Collins at the Jaguars. The Texans are not going to be a great team this year. However, CJ Stroud likes Nico Collins. And Nico Collins, if you look at the targets, he's been getting them. And with that being said, he also had a touchdown last week in week 2. So I like Nico Collins at Jacksonville. He's going to be the main target for Stroud. So moving forward, he's going to probably be in my top 30 rankings. 25 is going to be Gabe Davis at the Commanders. Another good matchup. Stephon Diggs is going to have a good game against the Commanders, but Gabe Davis had an even better game last week in week 2. So expect Gabe Davis to kind of continue a trend, maybe more of a flex play than a wide receiver too, but look for Gabe Davis to be in the start-sit video in Thursday's video. Number 26 is going to be Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, not a whole lot of targets. He has been targeted in about 4 to 6 a game. Not terrible, but not great. He's not going to get the Justin Jefferson 10 to 15 targets a game type of thing, but he's been producing. He's kind of been the wide receiver 3. It seemed like KJ Osborne was going to be number 2. As of right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. Jordan Addison seems to be the wide receiver 2, and he has a touchdown last week, actually in 2 straight weeks now. Going into week 3, I really like the matchup against the Chargers. They're going to be able to probably get another one to Addison, so look for him to be a wide receiver 2 or flex more than likely. Christian Kirk versus the Texans, a bounce-back game for him, and he's going to have another great matchup. He did a bounce-back against the Chiefs. Now he gets the Texans at home. Yeah, Christian Kirk is in the top 30 for sure. Number 28 is going to be Michael Thomas. Like I said, Saints have not played yet, but with Derek Carr against the Panthers today, I expect a good performance from these guys, and carrying that momentum at Lambeau Field will be huge. depending on how this game goes tonight. But again, I expect the Saints to kind of do what they need to do and maybe even outperform what people think they could do this year in the Monday night's game against the Panthers. Number 29 is going to be George Pickens at the Raiders. Seems like Deontay Johnson's going to be on the IR more than likely here in the next few days. If that is the case, George Pickens will be the number one guy in Steelers country. And moving forward, that will be a guy, again, in the top 30. He has been in most of my videos so far, last two. Number 30 is going to be Josh Reynolds versus the Falcons. This is a guy that I like. St. Brown is obviously the number one, but Reynolds had 2 touchdowns in week 2, and he got 7 targets in week 1. So keep an eye on him. If he's in your waiver wire area right now, if you can pick him up, pick him up. He's going to be somebody that if St. Brown can't go week 3, he's an automatic start. So look out for that start-sit video and make sure, like I said, if you hear this right now, I'd go see if Josh Reynolds is available on your waivers and pick him up. And that's going to do it for our wide receiver rankings for week 3. Make sure you like, subscribe. We definitely appreciate it. We're going to keep doing this as the season goes on, and hopefully we can get you some championships and win your league. Other than that, this is Cameron. You guys have a good one.